Hi, welcome to the video. So today we'll be looking at the solution for 1928A problem number on codeforces.com website. So the question title goes something like this. It is called rectangle cutting. So the question goes something like this. Bob has a rectangle size of sides A and B. Okay? So he is trying to cut the rectangle into two rectangles with integer sides. So he cuts it by making a cut parallel to one of the sides, either to side A or to side B. Right? He tries to form some other some other rectangle from the two resulting rectangles, and he can rotate the final rectangle. He can rotate each of the pieces. He can move the rectangles as he wishes. Okay, so if the rectangles differ only by 90-degree rotation, then they are also considered the same. As in, a rectangle with sides 6 cross 4 is considered equivalent to a rectangle with sides 4 and 6. Okay, so thus, with the given constraints, if you are given a rectangle of sides 2 and 6, another rectangle can be formed by cutting across the length 6 length, and then placing this part of the rectangle or on top of the other rectangle, right? This will form a different rectangle with sides 3 and 4, which is different from sides 2 and 6. Okay. Similarly, if you are given a rectangle with sides 2 and 1, which is shown like this, if you can only cut it in horizontally, because vertically you cannot cut it. You need to have integer value sides, so one cannot be cut down further. So by cutting this on the longer side, on the side with 2 units length, we'll get two different squares of length 1 unit, right? So even if you keep the first square on top of it in this orientation, you will get the same original rectangle. Let us just say you place this rectangle on the right side or left side of the other rectangle, then you will get a rectangle in this orientation with one side 2 and the other side as well, which, if you think about it, is just a 90-degree rotation of the original rectangle, right? So in this way you are not able to create a new rectangle, so you will output no in this case. You will output yes in this case, because you are able to create a new rectangle with different dimensions, right? The last part is very important. So you are going to check if you are able to create a new rectangle with different dimensions. Okay, so let us now take a few examples and see how it goes. Okay, so let us just say you are given a rectangle, okay, and this side is x and this side is y. So I am cutting it vertically, right, to two parts. So what I get is two different rectangles. This part is x by 2 and this will be equal to y. Similarly, this will be x by 2 and this will be y. Okay, so let us just think for a second and see the different ways how I can place these two rectangles and get a different rectangle, right? So let us just say I can place this rectangle here or here or here, or I can place it as is, right? So let us just think I place this rectangle here. Okay, let's just take it, move it here horizontally. So if you think about it, the length of the sides are not going to change, right? It's the same as if you keep the rectangle here or here, right? So similarly, if you keep this rectangle on top of the other one or on the bottom of the other one, essentially the lengths of the resultant rectangle will be the same. So okay, that is clear, right? So right or left is same and top or bottom is the same. So we only need to check for two cases. Out of these two cases, if let us just say I keep it as is only, or we're checking for the left or right cases, then you're essentially forming the old original rectangle only, right? So you cut the rectangle and you're just joining them back, if you think about it, right? So essentially we only have to check for placing the rectangle, one of the rectangles on top of the other one, right? Like this way, right? The first one, and we join the second one here. So net this rectangle will have a length of 2 times y, and the width will be x by 2. Okay, cool. So similarly you can deduct a similar logic to the horizontal cut as well. Okay, if I cut it by horizontally, then I'll have two rectangles. Okay, and the unique new rectangle will be formed by placing them adjacent to each other. Okay, so since this length is x, it gets doubled here. This is x and this is also x, right? So the total length will be 2 times x here, and the width will become y 2. Okay, so as shown in this example, there are two types of new rectangles that can be generated. Okay, so if you start with a rectangle with sides x and y, you can either create a rectangle which has 2x length and y by 2 as the other side, or you can create a rectangle with x by 2 and 2y as one of its sides. So these are the possible new rectangles that you will be creating, right? This much is clear, right? So once this is created, the other constraint is that the newly created rectangle should not have the same dimensions as the original one. So essentially what you have to check is the set, because either of the lengths should not be equal, right? The set xy should not be equal to the set 2x y by 2, and same set x and y should not be equal to set y by 2 comma 2 sorry x by 2 comma 2y. Good. So just in the code we'll be seeing one more condition here. So we'll be checking if x, because we only have to have integer sides, we'll check if x is divisible by 2, then only check for x by 2 condition, and similarly if it is y, if y is divisible by 2, then only check for y by 2 on a condition, right? So this will come here, and this will go here, right? I hope that's clear. But this is what we have to check. If both of these, any of these is not equal to the original one, then it means that you are able to create a new rectangle with different dimensions than the original rectangle. If you are not able to create a rectangle with different dimensions than the original one, then You just say you're not able to do that and print no as the answer, right? I hope the logic is clear up until now. So we'll be seeing the Python code for the same. So the code goes something like this. So for each of the test cases, we'll be checking, taking input. This is some boilerplate. We are creating a list of the sites. Okay, we're keeping a flag where we track if we have encountered any new rectangle with different dimensions than the original one. So for the first case, I am checking if the first side is divisible by 2. If it is, then I create the new rectangle, rather the sides of the new rectangle, which is first side by 2. I am cutting it by 2, and I am keeping incrementing the other side by 2, right? So this gives me the sides of the new rectangle. Here I am checking if the dimensions are matching with the original rectangle. If the dimensions are not matching, then I say I have created a new rectangle with different dimensions. Similarly, I check for the other side. If it is divisible by 2, then I'll be cutting it into 2, and I'll be incrementing the other side by multiplying it by 2. Then I get the sides of the new rectangle, and I check if the dimensions of the new rectangle are matching with the original one. If they are not, then I say we have found a new rectangle which has different dimensions than the original one, right? At the end of the code, we just say if we have encountered at least one rectangle with dimensions different than the original one, then we'll output yes, otherwise we say okay. Just run the code again, just for the sake of it. So yeah, this is matching with the expected output. So let me just copy this code, submit the same. Submitting this, and the problem code is 1928A. So submitting this. So yeah, that is the solution. So yeah, that is accepted. And so as always, please first try to solve the question by yourself. If you are not able to come up with a solution, then try to see the first part of the solution and take some hints from there and try to come up with the implementation part by yourself. If you are still stuck, then only come back to the solution part. Yeah. Thanks for watching the video. See you next time.